Hi guys, I'm going to do a quick tutorial on our little NHS nurse today. Everything you need to complete this project should be in your kit. You'll have a small sponge, you'll have a needle just tucked inside the sponge, you have all your wool and you have your full instructions. So this is just a little bit of a helping hand, especially to anyone who hasn't done it before. I've had a few inquiries to people saying, I've never needle felt it before, do you think I could give it a go? Yeah, definitely, it is so easy. So we're going to start off, so you'll notice in your pack, you will have a variety of different wools. There'll be a fine white wool that'll be really nice, and when you pull it apart it will have quite long fibres like this one. So this is our merino wool. We put this around the top, so all the different colours we felt in over the top. There's a coarser wool, there will be a coarser wool. This is our core. So when you pull this apart, the fibres are very, very short. It's maybe not the prettiest, I mean it's just white wool, but you can use it for going over the top too. But it can come in all different shapes and sizes. It can be yellow, it could be brown, but the one we're using is actually quite white and quite nice, so you can kind of use it over the top if you wanted. But for this project we're actually using it as the core for the inside. So what we want to do, we want to get enough just to make the head first of all. So you know, it's entirely up to yourselves. You can make it a little bit bigger and make a huge big one. You can split everything into two and make two smaller ones if you want. I have a problem making small things actually. I end up making everything quite big, quite large, even if I'm trying to make it small. So it depends really on yourself if you want to do that. So we bundle up a little piece of wool, and then we just kind of pull it up and we start to jab it. So again, for anyone who hasn't done any of the workshops in the shop or hasn't given the needle felting a go at all before, what we're doing is we're kind of backcombing, we're kind of binding all the fibres of the wool together. So these little needles, they're very, very brittle and you can't really see it, but if you actually feel down you'll feel that there's little barbs on the needle. Okay, so what this is doing is kind of binding it all together. So the more you jab, the harder this wool will get. And you can almost feel whenever you're holding it like that, the fibres just kind of pulling through your fingers. One other thing about the needle, because it is very, very brittle and it breaks really easily, only ever put it in and out. So jab it in and out. Now you can put it into the side, but make sure it's going in and out, straight in, straight out. If you put it in and you bend it whenever it's in the wool, it will break. If you notice your needle starting to bend, it's going to break. You're doing it wrong. You just need to, and I hate to say that, I hate to say you're doing it wrong, but you're doing it wrong, you will break your needle. And that's the one and only right and wrong in all this, just the way you put your needle in, okay? So we're jabbing, straight in, straight out. Now, just for the purposes of time here, here's one I prepared earlier. So this is our little head. So that was the same amount of wool. It has gone, that one's quite big and fluffy, this one's a lot firmer. But we don't want it to be too hard. And what we're going to do is, so we're going to take some of our flesh coloured merino roving and we just want to jab it in. Now we don't want to cover the entire ball, but we do want to cover it, but what we want to do is we want to leave a little tail, so we don't want to do it round. So we just put it a few wee jabs to hold it in. Again, you don't want to felt this in too much. I tend, if I'm doing figures like this that are faceless, I tend to keep the wool around it quite loose because you can have a tendency to overstab and it just makes your wee felty look like it has a serious skin condition. So you can see that there's probably little pin marks in that, and that's fine, because what you do, you just use the end of your needle very lightly and you can smooth those out when it's all done. Again, I'm doing this quite quickly, so you would spend a wee bit more time, be a wee bit more careful with it. So not very tidy at the minute, but that's it covered, and it has a little tail. So this little tail is quite important, and what we want to do with this is we want to get another little bit of wool, and we just want to put this around the neck. Again, there's some parts of mine that aren't covered too well, and I tend to never worry about that too much, because you find you always have one bit that's totally covered and another bit that's not, and I just use the bit that's not the greatest. I put it at the back and cover it with hair, or you could find that it's all perfect, and that's great. So what we want to do, the little bit that you've wrapped around for the neck, just give it a few wee jabs, and that just holds it in place. So there we have our little head with our little tail, and the tail's quite important because it will hold everything together, but I will get to that in a second. So we want to get some more wool, and we're going to do the body. So just kind of want to stretch the wool out a little bit, make sure there's no big knots in it, and then we want to roll it. And we kind of want to make it into a teardrop shape. And a few wee jabs on the join just to hold it in place. So, still quite loose, but that's going to be our body. So here's another one that I done earlier. It's a little bit smaller than the other one. That's because it's been felted a wee bit more. So we have our body, we have our head. How do we join those together? Okay. Pipe cleaner. We just want to cut that. Okay. So we want to get a little bit of the flesh colour. This bit can be very tricky. So we want to start wrapping this around the end. Try and keep it quite tight. Okay. Now you'll notice there's a little bit at the end I haven't covered, and there's a reason for that. And there's a few centimetres there that I've totally covered in flesh. Okay, so what we want to do is bend this over in the middle where the flesh is. And just smooth the wool down, and then we want to wrap it. Try to keep it as tight as possible. So just hold that tight and wrap it round. And you'll see the end is completely covered. So that's going to be our little hand. And we do the same at the other end. Okay, so that's it covered, and then we just do the same again. We bend this in half, so you can see that that's like that, and then we just bring the wool and wrap it around like this. At this point I just keep it between my fingers quite tightly and twist. Maybe a wee bit too much flesh coloured, but don't worry, so I can just twist it around like that, make it a wee bit longer. So the more you twist it, the smoother you should make it. And there's our second little hand. Okay, so we have two hands, bit in the middle. So our wee nurse is going to be, this is a slightly different shade of blue, so see her wee arms here. So her wee arms are going to be blue. I'm not sure I said at the beginning of the video too, but for all the kits that we're selling, £5 from each kit will be donated to the Northern Ireland Hospice. So I think they're actually really struggling at the minute, as most organisations are. So we're just dropping the blue around, just like we did with the flesh coloured. And a wee bit where I had a wee bit too much flesh coloured. I'm just dropping it. These little arms look a little bit skinny, so if you want you can put a wee bit, another layer on top of it, just to kind of fill the arms out, because she'll look like she has quite skinny arms there. So, but it's entirely up to you. So how we join these two bits together now, so we have our body and we put the arms over there. Don't worry if the arms look like they're longer, because she's going to have quite a longer skirt. And our head, so we get our little tail and we separate it into two, okay? We hold it together and we put one bit over the back, one bit over the front with the arms in between. So we jab these. Just jab it on the other side. Okay, so she's still a little bit wobbly. I'm going to felt it in a little bit more. And if her head's a little bit wobbly, don't worry, because we're going to use more of the blue, and that's going to help to hold it on. Okay, so there she is. A little bit strange looking at the minute, but that's the basis for her body. So we want to get some more strips of the blue, and so we just cross it over her shoulder and a few wee jabs in. Again, at the front, I'm not going to put too much blue at the front because she's going to have her apron, so it just seems a little bit silly using the blue where we don't have to. I got a lovely photo sent to me from one of the ladies who's already made this, and she actually made her wee nurse with PP on it, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely brilliant. Okay, and then we get another bit. And we just fold it over again. Okay, so put her wee hands up in the air. And I'm going to put another little bit just around her here. Again, depends how small you want her torso to be and how tight you want to do it. And a few wee jabs to hold it in. Okay, so she should be like this. Okay, I have another little one here that I had already started putting the skirt onto. So again, she's exactly the same. She's covered, top's covered, and I have started to put her skirt on. So how I do this, and it depends how long you want the wispy bit at the bottom of her skirt to be. So you just basically put it where the waist is and poke it in. Now this little lady, I'm just going to do the front of her, again just because I'd want to be here all day, and you can put in as much time as you want at home with these. I normally start something, and in some of our beginners classes, as you know, we would do, we would make something, it would maybe take us a few hours to complete. By no means is that the end of it. You can still go home and felt away for a few hours and just perfect it, just do a wee bit more to it. Again, some people like their felties to be quite fluffy and soft. I don't like them too soft. I don't think they'll look great when they're too soft. But if you spend a wee bit of time on it, actually make it a wee bit harder, I think it just looks a lot better. So this is her covered, okay? She's not at the back, but front, she's covered. Okay, so we want to get the white and we want to put her apron on her now. So for the top of her apron, I would get a piece, fold it over and put it on. And just poke this down. And again, poke it in quite gently initially, and then spend a wee bit more time when you have her done, just actually tidying her up. So it's the first bit. And then we want to give her a big long bit for the rest of her apron. And just poke those wee edges in, if there's any wee white bits spilling into the blue. And so we give her a little bit just around her waist. All good? You gonna say hello? Is Robin here? Say hello. Again, some straps. White. Or sometimes the white and flesh, the query I like. So again, this is the basis for her apron, okay? And again, I'm not going to put too much work into that. If you're doing that at home, spend a wee bit more time. I'm going to get a little bit of red, so we take the tiniest little strands and we want to put her little red cross on. So just put one down vertically and the other. Across horizontally. Again, a little bit fluffy, but we have the bases for it there. Okay, so for her hair, you should have some black or brown. And again, you can give her whatever hair you want. I think the easiest way is to give them a little updo. So I tend to just put it on. and felt it in. Okay, just watch your fingers when you're doing this. Okay, so you just do that the whole way around. So you spend a little bit of time on this wee lady. You should come up with something like this. Now the only addition here is her wee hat. So I'm going to do that now. So I would just flat felt this. Okay, so we just put it down flat and just flatten it. Okay, and then keep taking it up and turn it over. Okay, so keep repeating this until all the fibres are woven together and it is quite firm. And you can either just use your needle to shape it into almost a rectangle, or if it's not the neatest, you can use your scissors just to cut it. Now just make sure it's well and truly solid, and I don't mean really hard, but just make sure all the fibres are actually bound together when you cut it, because if you cut it and it's still quite soft, it'll just fall apart and it'll have frayed edges. Okay, this one's starting to